So it may seem like it's just completely random, but there's always a reason, and it's probably nothing that you're doing this week or this month. It's usually if you go back 2 to 3 months ago, were you traveling a lot? Did you go through a stressful time at work? Were you not treating your body well? Were you in a car accident? Even if it was minor, that shock could trigger the hair cycles to stop and therefore the hair to start shedding. But then looking into things like your thyroid function, with a full thyroid panel from your doctor, including antibodies as well, looking at your androgen levels, so something like a Dutch test could come in if you've got the money to spend on that one, looking at your iron levels, looking at your vitamin D, but stress would usually be the most. There's a time and a place for them. They could be really great for some people with musculoskeletal issues, hair growth, skin problems, but they don't work for individuals like me who have histamine or mast cell related issues, because they can actually increase. I mean, you can drink any if you like a particular one. Black tea does contain a lot of tannins, so it can block the absorption of minerals in the diet. I would personally go for green tea because it has the highest antioxidants and the most studies for PCOS, and it has those antioxidants to help reduce inflammation, which is a key driver. And also the amino acid EGCG acts as a DHT inhibitor as well. So I would say more benefits with the green tea. Tea does have less caffeine than coffee, but some people are very sensitive. So in the initial stages, it may be good to remove caffeine, but then once the adrenals are stronger, the body is functioning better, then the person could tolerate caffeine a bit more. So I really love Dr. Isabella Wentz's work. I think it's a few years old now, but still really good information. I also like Viva, which is the adrenal thyroid revolution, and Dr. Alan Christensen, the adrenal reset, I think. Really optimize your diet and reduce processed foods, inflammatory foods, lots of high quality proteins and healthy fats to start regulating your blood sugar. Maybe give yourself a month or two whilst on the pill to start to implement some of these things, so it's not so much of a shock to the system, especially if you're coming from more of a beginner or Western diet perspective. And then whilst coming off, supporting with supplements like magnesium, methylated B vitamins, some liver support, whether dandelion, milk thistle, glutathione, NAC. Sometimes coffee enemas can come in, castor oil packs, hydration, herbal teas, moving your body, sleeping really well every night, and prioritising that circadian rhythm support. So it can definitely be genetic, but there are certain hormone imbalances that can cause you to store your weight in different areas. I tend to find that pear shape, so the thighs, the butt and the hips, tends to be more estrogen dominance, whereas more of the abdomen area tends to be insulin resistance and stress. But always combine your symptoms with like a family history and also lab testing to see what's going on. So in this situation, a Dutch test could be really helpful in determining whether you do have estrogen dominance. I'm absolutely not against pharmaceutical medication because they can be life-saving, but it's the use of medication when there are more lifestyle and dietary interventions, and it's just like the first place people turn to. That's where I'm not really supportive, because nutrition can be really powerful. But for example, if your thyroid's damaged due to having Hashimoto's for a decade, then you physically can't function without thyroid hormone, so you need to have a supplement of that. Same if you're diabetic, you need insulin to survive. I would say if you're doing all of the right things and you've worked with someone to determine if you actually have investigated everything and have tried the different products and tests available, and you really can't think of anything else to do and you would really benefit from the supplement, the medication, I would say don't feel guilty or frustrated that you have to do that. Just inform yourself of the side effects, potential risks, and also see if there's any supportive nutrients and things that you can do to aid your body whilst taking that medication. I don't think I know of a particular recipe book that's specific to PCOS. Books like 10 Steps to Reversing Your PCOS probably will have recipes, and like Beyond the Pill by Dr. Gillian Brighton will have a few recipes, but it's more of an educational book. I also really like Cooking for Hormonal Balance by Magdalena. I don't know how to pronounce her last name, but you can find that on Amazon. And for PCOS in particular, I'm coming out with my online course in a few weeks, and that's got a recipe book in there as well, like a PDF recipe guide. This isn't really a question, so I'm not sure what you're asking. If you're asking whether you should take it, I have no idea. You need to speak with your practitioner and your doctor and figure out if it's the right thing for you. Again, I'm not against medication, but there could be other things that you could try and look into. I've seen both sides, like people promoting it, saying it's harmless, people saying it's actually harmful to health. I just prefer not to use one just in case. I like the guilty until proven innocent theory, but I have no idea, sorry. If the progesterone is bioidentical or body identical, they use those terms interchangeably, then potentially. If you've investigated all of the different causes and tried other things with nutrition, lifestyle, stress management, but if it's synthetic, like the ones in the birth control pill, it's actually progestin, and that's completely different to progesterone. Progestins act more as androgens in the body, like male hormones, and they come with a whole host of side effects. So yeah, it seems like you're already on a good protocol. And definitely the rest, protein in the diet, you need to really increase your protein needs, vitamin C for wound healing, maybe a collagen powder as well as the bone broth. But yeah, seems like you're doing... Again, if it's bioidentical hormone replacement therapy, then maybe. If you mean pills like supplements, then it depends on the person, the case. I know with you personally, we're starting off with the supplements and then seeing where we end up, but it's completely bio-individual and depending on... Just general liver support would include just the basic nutrients, safe for everyone, so magnesium, methylated B vitamins, amino acids and proteins, the nutrient choline, but then you get into the other things like milk thistle, dandelion, which may be different for everyone, and then things like enemas and castor oil packs, exercise, just basic herbal teas, usually still quite effective. Yeah, that's right. So the packages that I offer just include the protocols, my lab interpretation, the one-on-one sessions with me. They don't include any supplements or functional lab tests. These would be additional add-ons that you pay out of pocket for. I don't know if this is a real question or just one of those fake bots questions, but I use just my iPhone. I think it's an iPhone 8 to take pictures, and I have a Canon camera that I film and take pictures on as well. So if you actually have diarrhea and that's why you're using the diuretytes, then addressing the cause of that, whether that's parasites or SIBO or food sensitivities. If you're just taking it for the electrolyte, like restoring the electrolytes, then I use electrolyte powder. But if you're just using it for the electrolyte benefits, then I use the products by Seeking Health, and they have a few different ones to whether you need sodium, potassium, both. I recommend those. Never actually used it apart from just the general stuff like arnica, but I know people who absolutely swear by it, and I believe that it's real and it works, but I've just never used it. Not anything safe or natural that I know of, and I wouldn't actually recommend that. And if you have a late period, you likely have a late ovulation, so focus on that. And once you ovulate, you're going to have a period in 10 to 14 days, or you're going to fall pregnant. So focus more why your period, why your ovulation was late in the first place, if it's happening consistently. But don't try and force a period, because your body will do things when it's ready. And if you do something artificial, it's maybe going to mess up your next cycle as well. Depends on what's driving the adrenal issues and whether your cortisol is too high or too low. It all differs, the treatment protocol. If you're mentally and emotionally stressed, then working on that through meditation, mindfulness and therapy. If you have a chronic infection in your gut or a viral infection that's causing chronic stress, then it would be to work on that as well. So they would be my answers. Sorry, it's not very specific, but I just need to know more about what's going on. So there were many different things, which I'm going to do a podcast about and a blog post and all of that, because I have a list a mile long of signs. But I think it's just the fact that I'd been working on my health for like 5+ years. I'd got a certain percent better, probably 90% better than what I was 5 years ago. But I've always had this lingering issue with food sensitivities and just some other things in blood work that never seemed totally right. And that led me to get tested. Yeah, absolutely. So the course will be out the first 2 weeks of March. One of the beta testers who is currently going through the course is quite knowledgeable on PCOS. She's a professional PT and does nutrition as well, and she still finds that the is really valuable. And although she knew some basic stuff about PCOS, there's a few reminders, like the foundational things, but also a few dietary strategies, supplements that she wasn't aware of. So if you're working with someone, or if you're even in the health professional business that work on blood sugar regulation, you can listen to the newest episode of the Hormones in Harmony podcast for that. Sleeping, prioritising sleep, getting 8+ hours of deep quality a night, and avoiding environmental toxins from plastics, heavy metals, those types. I have, yes, and I'm actually going to be booking in with a practitioner over the next couple of months to work on my health and just for me to check it out and figure out what I think about it. I know, again, a few people who have amazing results and it works on a number of different things, whether that's a chronic viral infection, mold toxicity, heavy metals, and it looks really good. I'm not sure the whole mechanism behind it. I think it works on energy, so I'm open to anything like that. Let me know if you've had a go though. I think it's just going based off improvements and symptoms. Like if something really doesn't work for you, then discontinue. If you find something helps, then stick with that. Or if your histamine issues are more environmental related, then sometimes binders could be the best option for you. If your histamine issues are gut related, then maybe antimicrobials and digestive enzymes can help. If it's nutrient deficiency related, then maybe whether it's magnesium or vitamin C could be helpful. So it's about figuring out why it's the issue. Yeah, that's true. Not to an extreme, but mildly, and it could be a factor. So in the first part of your cycle, when you're more estrogen dominant naturally, then you're more insulin sensitive, so you can tolerate more carbohydrates in the diet. Whereas when opposed to the second half of your cycle where you're more progesterone dominant, hopefully, then you become slightly more insulin resistant. And this is a natural process, because if you were to fall pregnant, which your body doesn't know at this point whether it is or isn't pregnant, your body becomes more insulin resistant so that the energy and glucose and nutrients could be shunted off to your growing baby. And this can happen as well during pregnancy. The woman becomes more insulin resistant during pregnancy. Start with your diet if you haven't already. So just eating real whole foods, organic as much as possible, high quality proteins, high quality healthy fats at every meal, removing the inflammatory foods, so processed fats and inflammatory foods. And this is slightly different for everyone, but just some general ones are usually gluten, dairy, sometimes eggs are a problem in the initial stages, and this will also help to restore any nutrient deficiencies that could be contributing to the dryness. Yeah, I'm a fan. So tart cherry juice is very anti-inflammatory, and it also supports melatonin production, which is the sleep hormone and mast antioxidant. Some people don't tolerate it due to blood sugar and insulin issues, particularly before bed, but it can work great for some. First, make sure that you test to be sure that you have candida. Don't just go off symptoms, because sometimes it can be a parasite or bacterial overgrowth that is giving you those symptoms, and the treatments are different for all of those. So make sure it is candida for definite. And then with your diet, reducing processed foods, refined sugars, white flours, those types of things, added refined sugars definitely. You don't have to go strictly very low carb, keto, anything like that, because the candida can actually thrive on ketones and protein. Not one of those people who will completely restrict all carbohydrates, because it can actually make you more depleted and suppress your immune system, making it worse. And then you need to do some sort of antifungals when your body's strong enough. So whether that's oregano oil, neem, berberine, you need something to bring down the yeast. You can't just do it on diet alone. And also supporting your immune system, because candida is something that we all have, but it should be kept in check by a strong immune system. So looking at that too. Look into fat-soluble nutrient deficiency, so A, D, E, and K, particularly vitamin A and D. Is usually linked to keratosis pilaris, so that chicken skin on the back of the arms or the upper thighs. Getting your vitamin D level checked with a serum blood work. You can also add in cod liver oil supplements if this works for your health issues. Check with a practitioner, but that will provide good amounts of omega-3s, vitamin A and small amounts of vitamin D, and also organ meats like liver and hearts, particularly beef and chicken liver, are really high in vitamin A. And egg yolks as well, increasing egg yolks to see if that helps too. So they would be my top tips. Probably zinc helps a lot of different things. I'm guessing it helps with the immune system, and that's protecting against free radical damage and oxidative stress on the thyroid. But you can have good zinc levels and still have a continuous exposure, which is damaging your thyroid. I use the Berkey water filter system, which is like the best on the market in my opinion. The one that I have is the big Berkey, so it's like 250-ish pounds, but it lasts for many years before you have to get the filter changed, and it's just very pure water. You likely need to work on strengthening the adrenal glands, because DHEAS is only produced by the adrenals. So if you're exhausted, your body doesn't have a lot of reserves for a number of different reasons, then you won't be able to produce enough DHEAS. I have no idea, sorry, about this. I would speak to a holistic dentist if possible. I know that ozone's great for so many things. I would like to recommend oil pulling with coconut or sesame oil, and the toothpaste biocidin, which helps with gum infection. Probably. I'm not sure. I don't really follow the low FODMAP diet or recommend it too frequently, just because it's quite restrictive and depletive to the good bacteria. But just go off symptoms. You don't need to go off a table to tell you whether or not something. Yes, that's why it's important to not just continually take iron supplement after iron supplement, especially the wrong form. You need to look at other minerals to see why your iron is so low, look at heavy bleeding, look at poor stomach acid levels to get to the root cause. If you've addressed all of those things and you're anemic because you've just had these problems and now you're working on it, then the type that I like to recommend is combined with lactoferrin, which helps to protect the bacteria from absorbing it. So sometimes the hemoglobin and other markers look normal, but actually on the lower end of the reference range. Ferritin is the iron store, so it's in some ways the most important one. And your body could be artificially or on purpose trying to lower your ferritin to protect you against something. So inflammation, gut dysbiosis, those types of things, because iron can be an oxidant. So it's like a protective mechanism. You just need to figure out why that is. Yeah, you really need to listen to the latest episode of Hormones in Harmony podcast, because we talk all about this, all the different factors involved. I would personally recommend looking at protein intake, healthy fat intake, and adrenal health to see if stress is nothing you really can do. You just have to put all of the things in place so that it doesn't happen again. Try and figure out why your body didn't ovulate. Rather than focusing too much on the period, it's the ovulation that we want to focus on. So are you hypothyroid? Do you have a lot of stress? Are you severely nutrient deficient? Are you over-exercising? Do you have PCOS? Looking at all of these things is the important part, because when you ovulate, you're going to have a period or you're going to fall pregnant, either of those two. Yeah, constipation could be due to a number of reasons, and hormones aren't just estrogen and progesterone, although they can play a role. High stress, so high cortisol, low thyroid can both cause constipation, and night sweats could be due to fluctuating estrogen levels, low blood sugar, high stress hormones. They would be the things that I think of, and sometimes infections as well, but if they're cyclical, then it is likely your hormones that are playing a role as well. You've determined that you've reversed your PCOS. Is it based on lab work? Is it based on symptoms? Do you have to follow a strict diet all the time and supplement plan to control them? If so, then that may be that you're just symptom suppressing at the moment. Then I'm also not a biggest fan of AMH testing. I hardly ever test it with my clients. I just prefer to look at other markers, because I've had people who feel absolutely amazing, feel much better. They do an AMH test and then get disheartened, and that stress impacts their fertility. So a much better test, in my opinion, would be to do something like a Dutch test to see if you're ovulating, to see how strong the progesterone is, because that's much better than an AMH, in my opinion. I'm not a doctor, so I can't ever prescribe spironolactone. Even if I could, I probably wouldn't, because I just find so many other more suitable things and more effective things, and it does come with side effects, but it could be a good option in some cases. I prefer with clients to address the root causes of PCOS, which tend to be either insulin resistance, inflammation, or chronic stress, or a combination of all three. And next Monday, so a week today, my PCOS course will be out, so it sounds like you would be a perfect candidate. It's really like asking how long a piece of string is, completely bio-individual, depending on what's going on, how long the imbalances have been going on for. If you basically have one food sensitivity, you remove that food, then in a couple of weeks, you would probably notice a difference. But there usually is just one thing. There's usually deeper imbalances. Say if someone's got mold toxicity, they've got chronic parasites, they've got Lyme disease, they've got nutrient deficiencies and chronic inflammation and mast cell activation, then it may take them months, if not years, to do that. I've never heard of that, sorry, so I can't really comment. All that you're looking for is a basal thermometer that has up to 2 decimal places, so like 37.66 for example, and make sure it's highly reviewed. I prefer to use the Daisy. But with any environmental toxicity, removing the exposure is the first thing. That alone won't make a huge difference. Yes, your reducing ongoing exposure, but then you also need to support detoxification. So getting your gut working, your liver, and your lots of the lymphatic system as well, mobilizing those stored toxins from the muscles and the fat cells, and then retesting at some point to see how the progress is going with something like a hair tissue mineral analysis after like 3 to 5 months time. It would indicate to me that there's some type of blood deficiency or anemia in the system. Could be due to a gut infection like parasites or SIBO, could be due to low stomach acid and just poor digestive fire. So check out episode number 52 of the Hormones in Harmony podcast. No, I haven't, but that's a good idea for an upcoming post or podcast episode. But my go-to resource for that would be Lily Nichols, who's the Real Food registered dietitian, so definitely check out her book and her Instagram page too. So topical things can help, but you really need to look deeper. Just slathering cream on every night isn't really going to help. So I would first look at your thyroid with a full thyroid panel, looking with optimal reference ranges, including thyroid antibodies, then looking at something like your gut, see if there's any issues with digestive enzyme production, particularly bile flow, because you need bile to absorb and emulsify healthy fats like cholesterol, which are the building blocks to your skin. Could be that you're not eating enough or you're not actually absorbing them due to a gut infection or just poor digestion. Histamine is needed for many different things in the body, like neurotransmitter production, but also stomach acid secretion. That's where they use like H2 blockers with reflux. So that was one of my symptoms as well. High histamine levels was causing acid reflux. Definitely try and get them both if possible. That's why I use a Dutch test with my clients to look at the relationship, because if one's high, if both of them are high or low or whatever, that can tell me different things. DHEAS is the sulfated form of DHEA. I don't really agree with that. It obviously depends on the person. Some people are chronically inflamed. They have nut and seed sensitivities due to poor gut health and immune issues. Maybe the nuts are mouldy or they're rancid and they're eating poor quality or just excessive levels of nuts and seeds. I tend to see that that's the problem. They swap all of the whole grains to like almond flour, then they're having it like 20 times a day. That would be where I see the problem. I'm guessing you mean that you can't gain weight because you're on a liquid puree diet. I would definitely speak to your doctor. I know that they would probably recommend a dietitian who won't give the best advice, I don't think. So maybe working with a practitioner, because it's quite a complex case and I don't want to intrude on that, and I can't even give medical advice and it sounds like you're dealing with some complex issues. But there's a product called Absorb Plus, which is like a nutritional shake. Some of them on the market are really bad, but this one's actually quite good. Not great in my opinion. I know that the research is up in the air, but I've just been hearing so much more recently about how it can create like an autoimmune attack in the body, because it is a foreign object after all, and a lot of people have issues with mold growing on the implants inside, and then over time you just become more immune suppressed. You start to develop symptoms like hair loss or acne and hormone imbalances, and you don't really tie them to the breast implants because you felt fine at the time. This tends to be the number one complaint that women have going through IVF and other fertility treatments. Usually it's the progesterone that they use, not always, there's other things involved. And the stress combined usually can lead to weight issues, but it's usually water weight. For most women, yes, unless there's some inflammatory bowel conditions, severe digestive or autoimmune conditions where they can't do a lot of vegetables. Otherwise, yes, they help with liver detoxification, contain sulfur. I'm not an extreme, so I don't have them at like every meal, but at least one serving a day. You can always have a look around your own home, like look under the sinks, see if you can see any damp patches anywhere. Some people recommend like taking a flash picture on your smartphone and seeing if you can see any dampness that shows up on the work surfaces or the walls. Also something like an ERMI or a HERTSMI, which would be either an air or a dust sample that you collect and send off in little petri dishes. These tend to be pretty affordable, so I would start there. Were these lab results looked over by a functional medicine practitioner or someone with a more holistic perspective? Because a lot of the time they look normal, but they're actually out of optimal ranges. They're just in the quote normal sick person range, which we don't want. Also make sure that you've had the full thyroid panel, including free T3, TSH, free T4, reverse T3, thyroid antibodies TPO and TG. That would be a full thyroid panel. If you've only tested TSH and T4, that's not enough. Then I would look at something like your adrenals with the Dutch test to see if it's actually flatline cortisol that's the problem, but then you need to go deeper and figure out why that is. looking at a mineral imbalance as well, because you actually need potassium to get thyroid hormone into the cell. Having high calcium levels, which I see very commonly, calcium storing up in the wrong place, and it can prevent or block thyroid hormone from getting into the cell. Even if your thyroid blood work looks absolutely perfect, it's just not getting into the cell where it's needed to do the work. Activated charcoal is pretty effective and it's available in most places. Another binder I love is Tox Prevent, the Medi Plus sachets. And I've been loving personally for myself Ultra Binder by Quicksilver Scientific. That's quite a heavy hitter though. I usually recommend soy yogurts. Like on occasion it's absolutely fine. It's just when people are having it every day. A lot of people have sensitivities to soy as well. It's genetically modified, especially if it's non-organic and it's packed with sugar. I just tend to use other things. I'm really not sure, unfortunately. You'd have to speak to a herbalist to figure that out, or it might be online somewhere. I just haven't had to use it long term, probably like 6 months maximum, while I'm working on the root causes of the high 5-alpha reductase and androgen. Just taking the supplement forever, you're not really dealing with the problem, and you're just masking, you're just putting a band-aid over it really. You're just swapping a conventional medication for a green supplement. So really dive deeper and look into the root causes. Really depends on the cause, like what's going on, what are your symptoms. If you've got terrible diarrhea every day, then I'd probably start with a GI map test. If you've got symptoms like systemically, so across the whole body, then sometimes a hair tissue mineral analysis could be the best one. That's usually the cheapest option as well, because minerals are like the spark plugs and they affect every single system of the body, and the test also looks at heavy metals, which can affect every system. And sometimes the Dutch test, I tend to find the Dutch test being less relevant. Depends on the level of mold that's the problem and how sensitive you are. Never use bleach because that makes it worse, but there's some natural cleaners. There's a brand called E3C, I think. They do a really good mold cleaning spray. You can use white vinegar and essential oils like tea thieves oil. That can be really effective. But if it's like a damp wall or it's very all over the place in your home and you have sensitive and health issues, then I would get a mold remediation team and don't do it yourself. I don't personally track or recommend clients tracking, but a number to possibly shoot for is like 100 grams of protein per day. And it all depends on like your age, your health status, your activity levels, as to whether you need more or less than that. Good ballpark for most people, and the majority of that should be coming from animal protein ideally. And protein powders, depending on the brand, I use a few like collagen. Not for me personally, I recommend collagen. Pea protein, just make sure the company is organic, the product is sweetened or very minimally sweetened. Make sure the company's been tested for heavy metals and pesticides, especially if it's like a plant-based protein powder, which I use the Nuzest brand, which is really good. So they can be used not as a replacement for whole foods though.